Hello, guys, and welcome to what is my new project, my new podcast, The Bogen 60. I am your host, Jake ELLENBOGEN, and I am here to bring you some sports. Pretty much that's going to be the name of the game. I want to go right into it. Before the season started, I made what was a, preseason prediction, which a lot of people make, sure, for the NFL. And I just want to go over it because right now, some of it is not horrible. Some of it is absolutely terrible. I'm a big believer in self-scouting. So I'm going to go right ahead and go through what I thought the standings would look like towards the end of the season during the midseason. So here we go. In the AFC East, I had the New England Patriots going 13-3, which right now they are 5-2, or 6-2. So that doesn't look horrible. They would have to lose one more game, but it is the Patriots, so that's not exactly guaranteed. And then in that division, I had the Miami Dolphins going 9-7, making the playoffs, which right now they're 4-3. I don't really see them making the playoffs. I don't think they're as good as I thought they'd be, or not as good as whatever. Moving on, the AFC North, I had the Pittsburgh Steelers going 12-4. I felt when you looked at Pittsburgh, I think you kind of knew what you were getting this season. Really tough team, great defense. I think it's the best in football. So I definitely had no issue putting them at 12-4. The rest of that division was not a fan of. So Steelers are the lone wolf there making the playoffs in my prediction before the season. One prediction I got wrong, seeing as the Titans have already lost 3 games, was my 14-2 prediction. I thought the Titans coming into the season were going to be awesome, and they still could be. Marcus Mariota has been bothered by a hamstring injury, and Corey Davis, who I thought was going to play a pivotal role, he's had a hard time staying healthy with a hamstring injury. So, I just look at it like this. The Titans, it's a 16-game season, and the Titans are 4-3 right now. So, something's got to give. They're coming off a Week 8 bye. They'll be playing the Ravens. I like the Titans moving forward. They're not going 14-2, obviously. I still have them making the playoffs, especially after Deshaun Watson towards ACL. We will get to that later on in the show. The Oakland Raiders I had going 11-5, and as of right now, I don't believe they make the playoffs, so that was bad. Kansas City going 9-7, making the playoffs. I had got Kansas City making the playoffs, but I didn't get their record right because I don't see them going 9-7. This is the monstrosity of mess. That might have been a little redundant, but oh boy, when you look at my prediction, the New York Giants going 10-6, it just looks awful right now. I had them going 10-6, winning the division, being the only team that comes out of that division, in the playoffs, and it just looks awful. So, I have the Eagles at 9-7, who look like the best team in football. Dallas 8-8. Which they could still be 8-8. They lost to Zeke Elliott for 6 games with the suspension. And then the Washington Redskins at 6-10, which all those injuries, I think they could fall to 6-10. Moving on, I had the Green Bay Packers going 10-6. I felt as though when you looked at the Packers coming into the season, I thought it was the Aaron Rodgers show. I didn't think there was a ton. I thought they upgraded slightly in the secondary, but nothing too crazy. Well, Rodgers, I did not know was going to go down with a collarbone injury. So that kind of changed everything. and I had them being the only team from that the division going in the playoffs at 10-6. So surprisingly, only one team. There might be two. The Vikings I had going 9-7. I had Detroit going 8-8, and the Bears going 5-11. Bears actually look pretty good, and since I wrote this, I've just started to buy more into the Bears as the season really progressed and as the offseason progressed. I thought you saw a lot out of Mitch Trubisky to be excited, although he hasn't really translated that to the NFL. But when you look at it, I think you see a really good defense, underrated defense by the Chicago Bears, and they're winning football games. They're 3-4. They got a chance. We'll see. Trubisky's only going to get better, hopefully. So, I had them at 5-11, but they might do. It looks like they're probably going to do better than that. Moving on, I had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 11-5, completely butchering the NFC South division champion, and I had the Atlanta Falcons at 10-6, both making the playoffs. Well, I'm not really too sold on either team. I actually like the Saints the most to win that division. And the Carolina Panthers just traded away Kelvin Benjamin, their star receiver. So I don't love the Panthers, especially the way Cam Newton's playing. Cam Newton looks absolutely terrible. So yeah, I guess I probably screwed that one up. The NFC West, it looks kind of on par. I have the Seattle Seahawks winning the division at 12-4. The Los Angeles Rams, making the playoffs at 11-5. Yep, I had that before the season. A lot of people think it's crazy, but I think this is a team that is scary, and I think they're really proving my point as to why I had them this high. So those were my preseason predictions. I just wanted to do some self-scouting a little bit. I did say, kind of crazy, Leonard Fournette would win the Rookie of the Year on the offensive side, and Jamal Adams would win on the defensive side. Looks like I got those guys down. Carl Lawson on Cincinnati could make a run. I think he definitely is in the conversation. But I think Jamal Adams of the Jets is playing lights out. So I would definitely still go with him. And unfortunately, Deshaun Watson tore his ACL, which brings me to my next point. So I would go with Leonard Fournette, just like I said preseason. Brings me to my next point. Feel really bad for Deshaun Watson. The poor guy tore his ACL in a practice today. I'm recording this on a Thursday night during the Thursday Night Football game, in which now the Jets are really looking good against the Bills. Really unfortunate. Deshaun Watson was kind of that key cog where I felt kind of comfortable putting the Texans in the playoffs and maybe further. The defense had already lost J.J. Watt and Whitney Merciless, so I was a little skeptical. And then the way they played against the Seattle Seahawks, I felt really, on edge basically about them. But one thing I kept coming back to was, wow, Deshaun Watson has really proved me wrong, and he looks like a top quarterback. So, with that being said, I really felt like Watson could put them in the playoffs. Unfortunately, with the recent torn ACL, it's going to be up to Tom Savage and newly signed former Bill O'Brien quarterback at Penn State, whose name escapes me, but Matt McGloin. So I think McGloin, he knows the offense. I think he's a quick fix. I do know from what I've heard is that Bob McNair, the owner of the Houston Texans, actually have signed off on the idea of bringing in Colin Kaepernick. I think that would be a nice little thing to kind of show the fans that you're still trying to win this season. I don't think it's a publicity stunt or anything like that. But I think, you can win games with Tom Savage with the defense as it is, but normally as it is. But the problem is this defense is banged up, and I don't see it. I think the Texans are in for a rough going, unfortunately. And that offensive line wasn't great. It was Deshaun Watson's mobility that really kept them going. The offensive line actually gave up plenty of pressures on Deshaun Watson. He just made magic. But Tom Savage, he was taken out because he wasn't mobile, and we saw that, week one. So, I don't know. I think the Texans are in a hole. I really feel for Deshaun Watson, but luckily, if he was going to tear his ACL, it's a good thing he tore it now. That way, he'll be back for the 2018 season. So, that is the good news. Moving on, we had other injury news. We had Pierre Garcon, wide receiver of the San Francisco 49ers. They just got their quarterback, but they just put their top wide receiver, and by top, I mean top. They gave him a lot of money. They just put him on IR with a neck injury, so we won't see him the rest of the year. Kind of unfortunate, but, in a lost season, I almost feel as though they didn't want to risk anything. Obviously, it's a neck injury. You really don't want to, throw him into the fire like that. What it sucks for is it sucks for Garoppolo because, the 49ers just traded for a quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo from the New England Patriots for a second rounder. And when you look at who he has, I love George Kittle. And I like Trent Taylor, but Garoppolo's going to need more than that. And, Marquise Goodwin, sure, but I don't know. To me, not having Pierre Garcon is really going to kill them. Obviously, they're not going to make the playoffs, and they weren't trying to save their season. This is a long-term move, but if you're going to play Jimmy Garoppolo, you'd want him to succeed, and how can you succeed if you don't have weapons? I think that's my main point. So, wish Pierre Garcon the best. Hopefully he'll be back next season healthy and ready to go. Now I'm going to go right into Sam Darnold. So I like USC, and I like Sam Darnold. He's a quarterback I really admire, and I think he is the real deal. However, Sam Darnold is 50-50 on leaving for the pros after the season, and I don't blame him. I think he's had a rough going this season, a lot of injuries for USC, a lot of key injuries for USC. They just haven't been the same as last year. He did lose Juju Smith-Schuster, so to me, I think you really have to consider staying if you're Sam Darnold. Now, recently, I was listening to my favorite podcast that I listen to every single day, and that is Colin Cowherd's The Herd on Fox Sports 1, but I listen to it on iHeartRadio. Now, with this, Colin always has great guests, and at some point, I hope to get some awesome guests on this podcast. If you don't know who I am, if you've never heard of me, I also have another podcast called the Downtown Rams Podcast, where I co-host that with my buddy Blaine Grisak, and it's an extension of the DowntownRams.com brand. So we made a podcast out of it covering all the LA Rams news and giving our 2 cents, and we got a bunch of guests and whatnot, so that's cool. But I'd love to get to that, with this podcast. This is new. I tried this because I had inside my head, and I felt like it wasn't exactly I didn't feel like it was organized, and I feel like the Bogen 60 is just very simple. I'm going to give you 60 minutes of football. I'm going to give you 60 minutes of hopefully some baseball and some basketball. Kind of mash it all together. 60 minutes in total, not 60 minutes each. And you're going to get an hour out of me. So if you want to kill some time, say, you're on that bike at the gym or or you're on the treadmill, you got your headphones in, you want to listen to somebody talk. I don't know why you would choose me, but I appreciate it. Well, you'll have 60 minutes of me killing some time. Say, you're at the office like how I am, and you're sitting there, you have to get work done, and you can't really focus without having anything on. I know, it's crazy, but that's how I work. Well, there's an answer for that, and I am going to be doing these hour-long podcasts, so I'm actually really thrilled to start doing this, and I hope you guys continue to follow, listen, and enjoy, and also check out some of my other stuff, because I do write articles. I'm not just a podcaster, even though I have 2 podcasts. All right, moving on. Back to Sam Darnold, anyway. The big thing with Sam Darnold, he's back and forth on coming out or not. Well, going back to why I brought up Colin Cowherd to begin with is Cowherd had a guest on his podcast, Albert Breer of the Monday Morning Quarterback, and he dropped a tidbit that Darnold would he would likely consider, or he would put whoever has the number 1 overall pick, he would put them into consideration with his decision, because I don't blame the guy. Like, he's, I don't even know if I want to come out of college. Maybe I should also use, whoever gets the number 1 pick as a way to decide. Now, shortly after that, because I heard that live and I thought that was cool, Colin, he referred to that as being, why would he go to Cleveland and whatnot. But that was never said by Sam himself. So unfortunately, and this is not Colin's fault, but unfortunately all those internet bloggers and whatnot came out and said Sam Darnold basically won't go into the NFL draft if the Cleveland Browns are the number 1 overall pick. And to me, 1, I think it's unfair because he didn't say that. But 2, I think it's unfair that people are actually criticizing him. So even if he did say it, people are saying how he's stuck up and he's a punk. And it's like, to me, would you send your kid to the Cleveland Browns if he was the top player? The way they handle players? I mean, let's just look at the recent example that was given to us by the Browns themselves. The Browns are going to Browns, right? Well, we saw that in full effect during the trade deadline. You had the unthinkable A.J. McCarron for a 2nd and a 3rd round pick. Well, that is unthinkable. And forget about that. The Browns botched the trade. They agreed to it, but then they didn't hand it into the league offices in time, and therefore the deadline passed and they couldn't get the deal going. Well, people have their conspiracies and whatnot. I'm going to stick to what I know. I don't, there's no conspiracies for me to really say. I don't think it's any of it is facts or anything like that. So basically, to make a long story short, the Browns completely botched this whole thing. And the big thing that's being lost here is the fact that they just told, without actually telling him, they just told their young quarterback who they drafted in the 2nd round, Deshaun Kaiser out of Notre Dame. Yes, he's raw, we knew that. They just told him that he's not the guy, he never will be the guy. And with that, by the way, he is so not the guy that we were going to go out of our way to make sure that we got our guy midway through in a lost season. They're 0-8. They have no chance at the playoffs. No chance. They need a plethora of teams to lose, and they're not even trying to make the playoffs. You'd have to win 8 games straight, so that's just not happening. So basically, my thing is, they just basically they showed their hand that, hey, we want A.J. McCarron now. So now the entire league knows they love A.J. McCarron. The entire league knows how stupid they are because they completely botched the trade. And the entire league now knows how stupid they are for spending that much on A.J. McCarron after completely letting Garoppolo go to the 49ers. So You can look at it and you can analyze it how you want, but, to me, the way they just pulled this whole thing off, or didn't pull it off, and the way they kind of threw shade at Kaiser, to me, I don't want my young son star quarterback going there. Like, if I had a kid and his name was Sam Darnold, and say, you had somebody as talented as Sam Darnold as your kid, would you want him going to a place that he's instantly going to fail? I mean, yeah, I'm one of those people, like, I would love to be that guy because it's just me. It's just in my blood. If I was a star quarterback, I would love to come out of the draft, get drafted number 1 overall, because that's a huge deal. And I would love to be the first person to really turn around the Browns. I mean, that would be awesome, But the fact is, while you can be that guy, and you can want to be that guy, it's not about you necessarily. It's not about Deshaun Kaiser. Kaiser has been put in a position to fail. I mean, if you think about it, here's the raw deal. You have a front office that is littered with analytical people. Now, in the NFL, analytics don't work. I will just say that now. Analytics especially don't work if that's who you're trying to put on the field. I mean, if analytics are getting you Ricardo Lewis and Kenny Britt, and I don't know what to tell you. Do analytics also tell you that Corey Coleman can't stay healthy? He can't play a full 16-game season? Do analytics also tell you that Kenny Britt can't stay on the field? He keeps on, there's always problems. I mean, he has off-the-field issues, let's just face it. But no, I mean, that is what it comes down to. And, I think, to me, I think the one that really gets screwed in this whole mess is Hugh Jackson. Because does Sam Darnold want to come out and play for Hugh Jackson? Probably. But what it comes down to is Hugh Jackson. You want a Deshaun Watson. Boom. Get me Deshaun Watson. Front office fails. Okay, Trubisky. Front office fails. Okay, I like Wentz. Front office. It's the front office, but it's also the owner, Jimmy Haslam. Until Jimmy Haslam brings in a czar like Peyton Manning, that team will not turn around. And if Peyton Manning goes there and is the GM or football operation guy or whatever, I think Sam Darnold would definitely consider it. I think right now, why on earth would Sam Darnold want to play for this team? Oh, yeah, they have a good defense. Okay, well, it doesn't matter because he doesn't have anything around him. Cleveland is just a dumpster fire. I'm sorry. Moving on, Cleveland Cavaliers are a dumpster fire. They find themselves now under 500 and the worst start for a LeBron James-led team in a long time. Now, I look at this, I take it very sparingly. There's a bunch of new players on this roster. When you look at it, to me, I don't think LeBron James is staying anyway. I don't. I think he's going to Los Angeles Lakers after the season, or the San Antonio Spurs. I don't think he stays in Cleveland. Now, with that being said, I don't think that this bad start means much. The Orlando Magic right now are 6-2. Are the Orlando Magic amazing? No. Are they even a playoff team? Well, who knows? I mean, the NBA, you can get off to a hot start and completely collapse. I think when you look at it, this team has talent, but I think it's a lot of talent that really needs to mesh together. It's a lot of new talent. You have Derrick Rose, you have Dwayne Wade. I mean, these new guys. Cleveland also isn't going to be Cleveland until they get Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas is injured, and once he comes back from his hip injury, maybe we'll see something. But right now, it's just Cleveland without Kyrie Irving until Isaiah Thomas comes in there to somewhat fill that void. So yeah, I I think it's a cause of concern, but it's understandable. I mean, obviously, it's the idea that you wouldn't be concerned about your team starting off bad with LeBron James on your roster. I don't know. And then you add, Kevin Love, but I don't think it's a huge deal. I think the Cavs will be fine. They'll make the playoffs easy. Probably win the conference. We'll see, but I don't see it's a big deal. Moving on to baseball, interesting news came out. Obviously, if you didn't know and you live under a rock, the Astros won the World Series. They beat the Dodgers in what was one of the biggest letdown of a Game 7s I've ever seen. Really wasn't impressed with that. I wanted more, down to the wire. Instead, it was really just Houston dominating. But, yeah, so the Yankees' third base coach that was responsible for sending home Greg Bird not once, not twice, 3 times in the playoffs and getting thrown out every single time, and including sending Brett Gardner over to third for a triple in which he, got reviewed and then he was thrown out. That same guy is headed to the Astros as the bench coach. So he was in consideration for the Yankees' managerial job. It sure looks like he's not going to get it now that he's in the Astros organization. Interesting. By the way, some of those blunders happened against the Astros, so I find that really interesting. Not saying conspiracy, I just find it funny. So yeah, I definitely think, with Joe Espada going to the Astros, I think it'll be interesting because that he was the favorite in some cases to be the Yankees manager. So we'll see who the Yankees get. They did let Joe Girardi go. He is not coming back. So, some Yankees fans want A-Rod. Some want Jeter. That's not going to happen. But A-Rod, the betting odds are actually pretty funny because you have an A-Rod and then you have, what is it? Mark Teixeira, Jorge Posada. So you have a lot of these former players, and then you have Don Mattingly, who's on the Miami Marlins, who I would love to have. There are guys out there. If I could have anybody aside from Mattingly right now, if I could have anybody besides Madden and Mattingly, I would probably choose the guy that the Mets got. So Mets fans, you definitely are lucky. Mickey Callaway, former pitching coach of the Cleveland Indians, I think was a great get by this organization. I think, to me, I think Callaway was probably the front runner. He was the lead guy, and I think they got a steal grabbing him after Terry Collins resigned. So that'll be interesting. We'll see, who the Yankees get. I know John Farrell's in the conversation as well. Won a World Series pretty quickly with the Red Sox, so we'll see how that goes. Although the Red Sox did not bring him back. I think it's definitely it's fun to keep track of anytime there's a coaching vacancy in any sort of way. Most of the time, it's pretty exciting. So, we'll see. With that being said, there's definitely going to be a coaching vacancy in Indianapolis, and that is for the Colts. It hasn't happened yet. Coach Chuck Pagano is the head coach right now. But Andrew Luck being out for the season after they just announced that, I think Pagano's coaching for his job. I don't even think necessarily they want to fire him, but they kind of have to because they have to show, they have to show these fans like, hey, we do care about winning and changing everything, and you have to show them that. And I think, by getting Pagano out of there, you add a new face to the franchise. So who would that new face be? Well, you have some, you have some guys that you can think of. I think Josh McDaniels of the Patriots would be a nice fit. I think David Shaw of Stanford would be a nice fit. And I also, I got to tell you, I actually really like Jim Harbaugh coming back to the NFL. This is all similar to what Colin Cowherd said, but I've actually been a huge fan of McDaniels. I think he's either going to the New York Giants or the Indianapolis Colts. That New York Giants job, by the way, that's not open yet. Ben McAdoo is somehow still your head coach for the New York Football Giants. But I think when you look at that position, it's such a big position, and I think you're going to get some coaches that are, they have job security, and they're going to try to leave for that position because it's so. The Giants are such a big organization, and I think they're going to get some serious candidates, so that'll be interesting. I thought they should have gone with Steve Spagnuolo over McAdoo, but they didn't, and McAdoo's going to find his way out of there pretty quickly. So, we touched on McAdoo. We touched on Chuck Pagano. There's a chance Bruce Arians for the Arizona Cardinals will be out, and he'll leave on his own. I don't know how true that is, but I think that's definitely interesting. And then you have to look at Marvin Lewis of the Cincinnati Bengals, who also would probably be gone as well. I think... enough is enough. Marvin Lewis has had chance after chance after chance. It would be really interesting, as we brought up earlier with Hugh Jackson, it would be really interesting if Hugh Jackson came back to replace Marvin Lewis, and then he didn't have to wait for a front office to get themselves together and make a trade. He could just move to the team that was that had A.J. McCarron. So that is his guy. He did draft him back when he was in Cincinnati, so that is definitely something to think of. I think it's a very interesting idea. As far as head coaching vacancies, though, I think those are really it. You can't fire a guy like Mike McCarthy, obviously, with Aaron Rodgers going down with an injury. I don't think you can fire Jason Garrett, because I know that is being talked about. People think Jason Garrett should be fired if they have a bad year, but they had a 13-3 season last year. The bottom line is this: they probably should have fired him a while ago, and he had his 13-3 season, regardless of how you think he helped or hurt that team. He had a 13-3 season last year, so he's not getting fired, guys. I don't see it. But yeah, I do think there are plenty of candidates out there. There's no Sean McVay, and there's no Kyle Shanahan. There's no Adam Gase, but there's possibly an Adam Gase and Josh McDaniels. I think another interesting candidate would have to be Terrell Austin, the defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, who by now should have a head coaching job, in my opinion. I think he's done a really nice job, and he has a really good reputation around the league. So sooner or later he'll have a head coaching job. And also Jim Schwartz and the way he's coaching that team, coordinating that defense in Philly, I think sooner or later he is going to become become a head coach again. I do think it's coming. Good things happen, to those who work hard. And Jim Schwartz was originally the Detroit Lions head coach, and he got fired. And he's worked his way back. He was with the Buffalo Bills, and now he's with the Philadelphia Eagles, and he's making a name for himself in Philly, as Philly is rolling right now as the top team in the NFL. With that being said, we have the NFC and AFC playoff picture, and I definitely think it's funny because you look at a team like the New Orleans Saints, and a lot of people were like, what are they doing trading away Brandon Cooks? And sure enough, this team has only gotten better. And I don't think it's because they traded away Brandon Cooks necessarily, but actually it could have been because they traded away Brandon Cooks to the New England Patriots for a first rounder and other stuff. But first rounder got them Ryan Ramczyk, from Wisconsin, the tackle. So that was huge. I think they drafted well for the most part. The pick of Marcus Williams, I think, helped. But I think the main pick Marshawn Lattimore from Ohio State, everyone loved him. So I don't think he was debated by many. I think a lot of people had him as their number one corner. Marshawn Lattimore has come out and has already established himself as a top 10 corner in the NFL. He's phenomenal. When you watch the film, you just have to marvel at how good he is in press coverage. He kind of reminds me of Darrelle Revis in a way. But yeah, I think they got a really good pick out of him, and I'm kind of surprised because this defense has been notorious for being bad, but now the Saints look like a good football team. Drew Brees is still kicking. I know he is an undrafted, not undrafted, but unrestricted free agent after the season, so that'll definitely be an interesting thing. But yeah, I mean, you have the Saints, and then you're looking at a lot of people like the Carolina Panthers. A lot of people buy into Cam Newton. I do not. I will say this though, is that Cam Newton doesn't need to play out of his mind for the Carolina Panthers to win, because their defense is really good, and by really good I mean they could probably beat anybody by just holding them to 3 points. Cam Newton probably has to take more of a conservative approach, and take care of the ball, hold on to the ball, and let the defense do their job, and run the football, and good things will happen. So I think the Panthers are in that conversation. I don't love them though. And then you have the Minnesota Vikings. That, hey, look, Case Keenum is playing well. And they could be looking at getting Teddy Bridgewater back, maybe Sam Bradford. They got my guy Kyle Sloter out there. So, they have quarterbacks. They definitely have quarterbacks, and they have a fantastic defense. So, the one thing that hurt the Vikings, I think, is the fact that they lost Dalvin Cook for the year so early on. Dalvin Cook could have been he could be the difference from them being a playoff team and a Super Bowl team. I think he's that good. I think he's that much of a game changer. So, those are some teams. I really like what the Rams are doing, obviously. I've said that. I think when you look at this Rams team, I think they pretty much have everything. They've upgraded, at wide receiver. They've upgraded, the coaching spots. They've upgraded at left tackle, center. In my opinion, they upgraded at safety. They have a young safety who I wasn't huge on, and John Johnson, who they got in the third round out of Boston College. He's playing well. He's really showing off how rangy he is. And he's playing next to LaMarcus Joyner, who has moved to safety from the nickel cornerback position. And then, the Rams have, some nice pieces on that defense with Kayvon Webster, Trumaine Johnson. And then they have Alec Ogletree, who they just re-signed. They have Mark Barron, who's playing out of his mind, among others. I mean, Robert Quinn, hopefully he gets back to the way he was playing. And obviously, the big guy in the middle, Aaron Donald, who is the best player in all of football in some cases. I mean, maybe you can make the argument against him, and Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, but he's the best defensive player in football. I don't even think it's close. He just, he plays that well, and then you have Michael Brockers playing out of his mind as well. So, the Rams they're 5-2. They play the New York Giants, and it is the Giants now. I mean, they've only won one game, and then moving on after that, they play the Houston Texans, who just lost Deshaun Watson, so that could be very interesting. And then you have the Seattle Seahawks, and the Seahawks, when you look at it, they just got Dwayne Brown in a trade. They gave up a lot for him, but they get a left tackle. And the thing is, though, I gotta tell you, I don't think it's the end-all, be-all at all. I do think that Dwayne Brown could struggle. I don't think he will, but I think he could. This offensive line is still terrible. So I don't love, I don't put the Seahawks in the Super Bowl conversation just yet. I know a lot of people jumped all over them after their win over the Texans, but the Texans don't have much of a secondary. We're able to throw on them all day. And, the Seahawks, they forced 5 turnovers on the Rams and only won by 6. I haven't been a huge fan of the Seahawks this season. I think it's really the Russell Wilson show. I think they're a lot like the Packers, where one guy really dominates. And I think that's really what you're seeing with Russell Wilson. I think those big splash plays, that's Seattle's game. If they don't hit them, they lose. Most of the time they hit them because they have Russell Wilson. Obviously, Philly with Carson Wentz, who's probably the most spectacular quarterback to watch on Sundays. He's just so good. I can't say enough about him. Obviously, I was a huge fan of his. Before the draft, that's who I wanted the Rams to get. They went with Goff. Goff is good. Wentz, he's just really special. Let's hope Goff gets to that point, but right now, Wentz just looks unreal. The Eagles are going to be getting healthy. They did acquire a running back in the form of Jay Ajayi from the Miami Dolphins, and I think that really helps their run game. Not a huge LeGarrette Blount fan. I'm not really a huge Corey Clement fan. Both guys aren't really explosive. I think that's one thing they lack. I like Wendell Smallwood, but I just think, to me, Jay Ajayi was a good fit for them. It's hard to see why the Dolphins did that, but then again, the Eagles are, they're pushing for the Super Bowl. I mean, that's what they're doing with this trade. They showed that, and I think it's definitely going to benefit them. But they're also going to be getting back a guy that they traded for from Buffalo, and that is Ronald Darby. And right now, this team is arguably the best team in the league as of right now. So in the NFC, getting Ronald Darby back is going to be huge. He's one of the faster corners in the league, and he's going to be able to cover the speedsters. It's going to be a good thing, especially in the playoffs. So they're getting him back at the perfect time. That will definitely they'll determine a lot. Are they going to win out? I mean, I doubt they go 15-1, but stranger things have happened. So I think when you look at it all, I mean, Green Bay has kind of fallen out because while they're still there with their wins, it's a shame because they lost Rodgers, and that was kind of their season in a way. I think it really was their season. I don't think they're that great of a team without Aaron Rodgers. I think Detroit is getting Taylor Decker back, their left tackle. So I think that'll be fun. Now that Matthew Stafford doesn't have to worry about his blind side every 2 seconds, I think this team will start to roll again. They started off 3-0. They're now, 3-3, 3-4. So I definitely think they're going to start rolling. I got to tell you, though, some people are saying that the Falcons are going to start rolling as well. To me, when you looked at it and you saw Kyle Shanahan and Matt LaFleur leave, and you saw Steve Sarkisian become the offensive coordinator, I thought that was the mistake. I think that was a huge mistake. I really do. I don't think Steve Sarkisian didn't blow anybody away at Alabama. So I don't really understand that at all, for the most part. But yeah, I mean, I think obviously the Falcons made the. Let me look. They made the Super Bowl last year, but they got really hot. Same thing with the Oakland Raiders last year. They didn't make the Super Bowl, but they got extremely hot. That includes Khalil Mack, who had an unreal amount of sacks towards the end of the season. He got them all in the second half. I think that team that really gets really hot, I don't know if they're guaranteed to win the Super Bowl, but it's a momentum-driven game, and I think if you can ride that through the postseason, I think you're good. So I think there's a lot to be excited about. The NFL gives you nonstop storylines. I mean, we already talked about all of them, and there's going to be plenty more by tomorrow, probably. So and so won't go. He's not a full participant, whatever. The Jets are dominating the Bills. Just stuff like that. I mean, and how about the Jets? That has to be a huge storyline because coming into the season, no one thought the Jets would be competitive, and they're looking at possibly winning their fourth game, and going 4-4. So, you know, it's surprising. It really is. To me, this is just a league where anything can happen. Anything. I mean, we've really seen it all, and the injuries, unfortunately, are part of that. Anything. When you look at Deshaun Watson and Teddy Bridgewater having those injuries in practice, I mean, it doesn't happen very often. The quarterback is really protected. They for obviously, for other teams, not every team, but other teams have the red jersey for the quarterback, so not to hit them. So it was a non-contact injury, and that's just the unfortunate nature of this game. It's brutal. It's a shame. But that's just the way it goes. And to me, when you really you think about it, and it's just really impressive what Deshaun Watson was able to do as a rookie. His season's over, and that's a shame. But he had such a great rookie season, half a season, to the point where he could probably get some votes for Rookie of the Year. He's in the top 5 in just about everything. So he really balled out this season. And for those of you saying that you knew this was going to happen because you watched him at Clemson and he did it all at Clemson, let me just stop you right there. This is a quarterback that was not ready for the NFL. Whatever Clemson ran or whatever, to me, he couldn't make all the throws. I thought he was way too inconsistent. I didn't like his mechanics. Clearly, this kid worked all day. He worked his ass off to make sure that he was going to be ready. And I think it shows. I mean, Deshaun Watson only got better as, only got better when he got, the chance to play. And we've really, we're really going to miss that as far as the league because he was exciting to watch. But yeah, it's definitely gonna be it's gonna be a shame without him. Some guys gonna have to step up. Obviously you saw Carson Wentz step up on Monday Night Football against the Washington Redskins, in which he really just after that all these articles came out. Carson Wentz is the real deal. Like, unfortunately, not everyone watches film. Unfortunately, not everyone watches every game or anywhere near every game. And they only really watch the primetime games, so that's when, that's your chance to really show off in front of everybody. Like, I'm the real deal. And that's kind of what Carson Wentz did. But every now and then, a player like Deshaun Watson gets a chance to, go against the Seattle Seahawks defense that just stifles rookie quarterbacks and play well. So, that caught the attention of people. Yeah, but it's funny because it's like I want to talk about baseball, but baseball season just ended. I want to talk about basketball, but what's really going on? It's early in the season. I think if you had to really say anything, I think two guys that are really impressing me. I think you had to look at Ben Simmons on the 76ers, who already looks like the real deal. But the main guy that really impresses me is the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, in Milwaukee. I just think when you watch him play, he's a top 5 player. He's just so great. I'm blown away by him, quite honestly. And I just, to me, that once the LeBron Jameses and the Dwayne Wades and all that leave the league, these are the guys that are going to be headlining. And Kevin Durant isn't exactly the youngest guy in the world. Eventually, he'll go off, and it's going to be led by guys like Lonzo Ball, guys like Josh Jackson, and maybe Markelle Fultz, and I mean, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, like those types of players. So it's really cool to see that. I mean, you could make that argument for any sport. Baseball, the youth, there's youthful exuberance in my opinion. I think you have, young players like Aaron Judge, Jose Altuve, that are really starting to pick it up with, Cody Bellinger. Just players like that just get you excited, like make you want to watch the sport. And I think that's what people are basically jumping behind. Youth is key. We talked about Sam Darnold. What about Josh Rosen? What about Baker Mayfield? What about Lamar Jackson, Mason Rudolph, Luke Falk? Like all these guys, Josh Allen, as much as I think he's going to bust. These guys are all, young and ready to add to what is kind of a really fun league in the NFL. So at one point we had Brady, Breeze, Rodgers, and Manning. That was kind of Brady, Breeze, Rodgers, and Manning was like the big four. Well, Manning retires. Brady is getting up there in age, obviously, but he's still strong. Breeze is still playing at a high level, and Rodgers is great, but he just got hurt. And then you have Andrew Luck and the guys on the outside. Like Andrew Luck hasn't played since last year, and he'll be out for the rest of the year, so that's a shame. But this league is healthy. It really is. When people say there are no franchise quarterbacks, I disagree. I think when you look at it, yeah, you have those guys, but then you have guys like, well, you have Andrew Luck, if he, was able to stay healthy. You have Matthew Stafford, who just got a huge deal. You have Marcus Mariota. You have Derek Carr, Carson Wentz. I think Jared Goff is a franchise quarterback. I mean, he's not your upper echelon type guy, but then again, it is early. So we'll see. But, I mean, he's still a franchise quarterback. Kirk Cousins, I would definitely say he's a franchise quarterback. Russell Wilson, absolutely. Deshaun Watson, sure, his season's over, but that doesn't mean he's going to change the league. I mean, he is such a franchise quarterback from what we saw. It's early on Trubisky and Jimmy Garoppolo and Patrick Mahomes, especially with the way Alex Smith is playing. I think Patrick Mahomes is the most talented quarterback in this draft, so, I can't wait to see him play. Obviously, I like what Alex Smith is doing, so it's fun to watch him go. But yeah, I mean, you have Jameis Winston, obviously, and he struggled quite a bit. But say Deshaun Kaiser pans out, say AJ McCarron pans out, you can add AJ McCarron to that list. Possibly Jimmy Garoppolo and Mitch Trubisky. It's a healthy league. Like, I think Jacoby Brissett, I really like him a lot, and I think he is a franchise quarterback. I don't think he's going to play for the Colts. I think they're, if you've ever heard me in person talk about it, I've been the one saying, and then all of a sudden Colin Cowherd starts saying it. Andrew Luck was never going to play this season. He was never going to play this season. There's no way that Chris Ballard, who is my favorite GM in sports, favorite GM in the NFL at least, was going to put him out with that team. There's no way. So, they make the trade for Jacoby Brissett, and now they have a guy that they can kind of show off to the rest of the league and be like, look, we got this guy. And, I mean, he's not, I don't think he's a top 5 future quarterback, but he's a good quarterback. I think, mobility is key, and he has it. I think he's got a nice arm. And I like the way he's able to scan the field and make good reads. I really liked Brissett coming out of NC State. Compared to him, he was kind of similar to Russell Wilson at the time, but he's filled out a little bit. He's a bigger quarterback than Wilson, obviously. So I do think you have those franchise quarterbacks waiting in the wind, but then you have the guys that I mentioned in the draft, and it's only going to keep going. Like, the league is going to keep replenishing with health. It'll be fine. I mean, unless you're the Arizona Cardinals and you just forget to draft a quarterback every single year, or the Cleveland Browns, who, you have the franchise guy right in front of you and you pass on him. Unless you're those teams, but I mean, like, hey, Bills fans don't like Tyrod Taylor. I think he's a franchise quarterback. I mean, Tyrod Taylor should have gone to Cleveland. I think if he went to Cleveland, that would have been interesting because he's able to do way more with his legs. And he's not a rookie, so he'd be able to take advantage of that offensive line as well. So, yes, I do think there's plenty of there are plenty of quarterbacks. I think there are some positions like running back where you're starting to lack. But this all started because of youth. It starts in the NBA, MLB, NFL, NHL for that matter. I mean, Connor McDavid, hey, young player. There's guys like Dylan Larkin, I just think the youth is the key. You got to see if this league just continues to grow, then fans are going to grow with it. I mean, on myself, I'm 22. I was born in 1995, and I've seen players, but I mean, for instance, like, I never saw like Reggie Jackson play live. Like, I mean, I've seen certain guys play. I remember the Yankee teams with Giambi. I remember my Rams teams with Steven Jackson, Marshall Faulk. But I mean, the key is for a league to continue growing, you have to have those young stars. I don't think that any of these leagues are running out of them, especially college football. There's plenty. And if you watch every single week, you find something interesting. And I think that's one of the cool things about college football. When you look at it, I mean, yeah, I think the college football playoff is just awful. I really do. I think the 4 teams is a complete disgrace. I think it should be 8 or maybe even 10 or 12. Narrowing it down to 4 teams just gives the committee whatever they want. You mean to tell me Clemson, the same team that lost to Syracuse, should be rated in the top 4 ahead of Penn State, who lost a road game against Ohio State, their bitter rival, a top team in the league, and they barely lost to them? Like, come on now. Like, I don't get the college football playoff, and I mean, that's just one of the things. I think, as far as if you're evaluating talent, I think it's just very fun because with college football, I don't really get into, like, who the standings and whatnot. I watch college football based off players. I tried to watch teams. I really can't. But I'm just so into the draft that it's so much fun. Like, Colorado has a nice corner by the name of Isaiah Austin. Like, I watched him, and I like him a lot. And then there are other guys, obviously. I mean, there are plenty of guys out there. Darnold is awesome. I mean, he's had some rough goings this season, but I think he's going to finish strong. The guy that he's playing against, the Arizona, Khalil Tate, he's exciting. Lamar Jackson is phenomenal. Just love watching him at Louisville. But I mean, this is the future of the NFL. So, like, if you're not watching Saturdays, you will find yourself like absolutely shocked, or you might not even know who these players are by the time they get to the league. That's the key. But that is just about going to wrap it up. This has been the Bogen 60. You have gotten 60 minutes. You've gotten an hour of my time. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to continue doing this. I think it's a good idea because I do have my Downtown Rams podcast, but when I've talked about the Rams and I want to talk about some other stuff, it's a good idea. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you soon. Later.